Buenísimas a todos, aquí The Walking Gamer reportándose. Y aquí estamos con una nueva edición de un nuevo juego llamado Stanley para mí. Un amigo me recomendó mucho este juego, me está diciendo todo el rato, oye, juega este juego. Ya, yo no lo jugué. Y vi como más o menos un cuarto de la historia, o sea, nada. Ni siquiera lo entendí, pero él me dijo, mi amigo, me dijo que se trataba de un forever alone, que estaba en una oficina y y mira, y se ve en la misma pantalla, se ve otra pantalla, en la otra pantalla, en la otra pantalla. Qué bacán. Ay, me encanta eso. No sé si se ven los FPS ahí arriba, ahí, porque se ve hasta en la misma pantalla de ahí. Ya, pero creo que al principio sale la historia, así que me voy a quedar callado para que la vea. Y está con subtítulos en español, así que cámara. Y ahora sí me voy a y ahí está la historia.
Stanley
Verla.
worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Chan.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour, and he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ya. Mi amigo también me dijo que el objetivo es no escuchar, digo, no hacer lo que te diga esa voz misteriosa que no sé de dónde sale de tu trasero. Patita, estoy flotando. Ya, esta es la habitación y tengo que salir, obviamente.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
¿Por qué?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
¿Qué Windows tiene? Quiero ver qué Windows tiene. Windows 1. Ah, ya, pero obviamente que no voy a hacer lo que me diga. No voy a hacer lo que me diga. Pero voy a ir a todas las puertas abiertas que hay, porque... No.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
A la derecha.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
¿Cuál es la sala de empleados?
Yes,
Oh,
truly
sí.
a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room.
Yeah.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ya. A ver. Esta... What? ¿Qué hay ahí? Ey. Esta cosa se pone
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
No sé por qué. Que de repente se puso como tensa así como... Y sonó la vida. Yo creí que iban a hacer peores las gráficas, pero está bueno. Chu. Ya. No saltes from de cargo. Mosh.
Look, Stanley, I think
Salto.
perhaps we've gotten off on the
Ah, no
wrong
puedo
foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm
Yo no
not.
soy tu
I
enemigo,
realize that
eres tu
investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. I'm not asking for me,
Mira, no estoy pidiendo
I'm
para
asking
mí.
for her.
¿Ella? ¿Quién ella? ¿Quién?
This
Tu
is
hermana.
it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem
Chance para
yourself,
permitirte,
to
para
put
ver
your
tu
work
trabajo al lado.
aside,
Que
to
ella-
let her
¿Quién es
back
ella?
into your
¿Quién?
life. She's been waiting.
Ella es... ¿Quién? Tu hermana, Juan, tu hermana. Oh, 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 se puso negra. Se puso nick. ¡Uy!
That's her, Stanley.
Chucha.
You need
Sí,
to be the
Stanley.
one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
¿Qué? What the fuck? Aplica. 427.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on,
is
sweetie.
doing?
Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven.
Sacando pan
All
del horno.
right.
Ok,
Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your
What? Oh!
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
What the f... Mamá me quiere...
Sorry,
Me voy...
but you're
Concha,
in my
no.
story now.
Yo no quiero estar en tu puta historia. ¡Uy! Hija de puta.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
¿Qué? No, yo no quiero. No. F, P, poto con caca. E.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Chúpame. Ve para acá. Oh, sí. No, no quiero presionarte, güey. Uy, casi apreté.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
¡No! ¡Lo quiero presionar! Ya, la mierda.
But in his
Mierda.
in his mind he can go on fantastic
Fantásticas
adventures.
aventuras.
From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was
Veamos la tele
wonderful.
mejor. Veamos la
And
tele,
each
puta
day
tele.
that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Ah, sabía que... Oh, sí. Yo quiero meterle el tepe. Yo
And so
sabía.
he began to
¿Qué?
fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Por la chucha. Para pasar tiempo con los muchachos. Qué punto que van a ser puros hueones como ella sí van a ser... Hola.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Wonderful. Dos. Para preparar la cena.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Estoy... Esto es para contarle al niño bonito. ¿Qué niños? Yeah. ¿Qué niños? Bueno, explícame qué niños.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his
Eso
head,
es,
he
eso es.
relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end,
gran puta.
that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Te amo. Te amo. Te amo, chúpala. Sí. Culiao. Oh, te amo.
But there is no answer.
Huh?
How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets. The more he forgets which life is the real one.
Duerme, weón, no
And I'm
duerme.
trying to tell him this. That in this world, he can never be anything but an observer. That as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
No lo hagas. No lo voy a hacer. Pero él me dijo algo así que lo tengo que hacer.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Por la chucha.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this
Hijo de gran
time.
puta.
And I tried again.
No.
Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I
¿Qué? ¿Qué? What? Pero, chucha. ¿Qué mierda pasó? Bueno, como que estaba empezando. I'll try it again. I'll try it again. ¡Pum! ¿No? Ya. No voy a dejarlo hasta aquí porque...
All of his co-workers were gone. What
Chúpala.
did it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
No, no
Perhaps
quiero ir,
he had
pero
simply
tengo
missed
que-
a memo.
Ya, no voy a pararlo porque me entretuvo, así que... Voy a seguir. Voy a seguir hasta que muera, entre comillas, muera.
When Stanley
Esta
came
vez-
to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
O tal vez... Fuck. Ya, no importa, no importa.
Yet there was
Oh.
not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might
Eh.
find an answer there.
Blue room closet. Ay, chucha.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
No, no me rendiré. Debe haber algo aquí. Alguna cosita. Alguna herramienta.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Debe haber alguna razón por qué esta puerta está abierta.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Debe haber algo aquí. Él mismo dijo con algo que integra.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
Chúpala. Okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Chúpala. No voy a ir hacia arriba. Voy a ir hacia abajo. Oh, ¿qué es esto? Una lucecita roja. Este juego...
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
¿No es cierto?
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
No. No estáis bien, o estáis curados, estáis drogados, te metieron droga por el culo, culiao.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I?
What?
And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
And this never G. Tenis lo hace. Ja, ja, ja. Ándate a la mierda. Bueno, chicos, yo dejo el video hasta acá. Ojalá les haya gustado. Mira, métete el labio por el culo. Bueno, si les gustó, suscríbanse. Denle a me gusta. Bueno, este fue la primera edición de Stanley Parable. Y la voz culia no me dejó tranquilo y esta weá ya me mareó. Bueno, nos vemos en la próxima edición de Stanley Parable. Hasta la próxima y adiós.